In that gatha which I said at the beginning, you may remember that's from the Ratana Sutta. This is Kinang Puranang Nawang Nati Sambhavan Virata Chittaiti Kebhavasmi Te Kina Bija Aviruddhi Chanda. Having destroyed the seed, take those who have destroyed the seed, Te Kina Bija Aviruddhi Chanda. This chanda, this desire, very close to the word intention, will, aviruddhi. It doesn't sort of grow anymore. It starts to wilt and die. This is actually the will being seen as completely unreliable, nothing to do with me. It's nice to see, to focus on Chetana, on will, on chanda, desire, to see it come, to see it go. Because this is the doer which I keep talking about, the me, which controls, or what one thinks is the me which controls. In the practice of jhanas, getting into a jhana, you're always faced with this difficulty of getting rid of the doer, because there's something inside, deep inside, which wants to be the thing which gives up the doer. It sort of gives up the doer outside, but never gives up the doer inside. And one always sort of goes back to another place inside, which one does. As you're meditating, as well as focusing on getting the perception of the one who knows, get the perception of the one who does, the doer. Reflect upon that a lot. What is this thing which does? If you move, what did the moving? If you think, what did the thinking? If a perception arises, what chose that particular perception above all other possible perceptions of that time? What did this? If the mind progresses in meditation, what did that? It's fascinating to watch doer. I was talking to someone today about sometimes watching the body. The body moves this way, the body moves another way. If you're very mindful, sometimes you see that you didn't do that at all. It just happened by itself. It's a fascinating thing to watch this. Sometimes I remember once when I was on Tudong, I was walking for a long distance. I was walking for many hours, mindful. And after a while, I wasn't doing the walking. I was completely mindful, just watching the body walk all by itself. It was been walking all day, and it just would do it without me telling it. It was like trained. And actually, to see the body move like that, very clearly, very mindful, and you weren't doing it, what happened to the doer? The doer had gone. So much of that which we call doing is an illusion of something permanent, something constant, the one in control. In the Sankhara, the fourth of the khandhas, sometimes will is the most important one of that, of the fourth khandha. Will, chanda. If one could actually see that, focus on that, with looking for its impermanence, uncertainty. Because do you rely on the will? Are you really in control? After a while you find you can't depend upon that. You can't depend upon being the driver of your car. There's so many other things which influence the way the car goes. It's one of those realizations for anyone who ever gets in a position of authority. So the more authority you have, the less control you have. I remember reading this about this, the biography of a man who was in the Royal Navy, who went up through the ranks and finally became a captain of this big aircraft carrier. And he said that when he was just an ordinary sailor or a young officer, always having to follow orders, and he sort of dreamed of the time when he was the captain and he could give the orders. But by the time he became a captain, he realized he had much more freedom as just an ordinary rating in the Navy. Once he was a captain of the ship, that there was hardly any freedom to make commands at all. The commands were almost automatic, had to be done. There were so many pressures on him from all sorts of directions. Sometimes you realize that this is a way of will, of choice. It's an illusion to think that there's some place, somewhere you can be in full control of these things. All the choice, will, is conditioned. It rises and passes away. The doer comes and the doer goes. See the rise and fall of Chaitanya, the rise and fall of will, the rise and fall of that khandha. And then you will never ever again depend upon that. We depend upon our will for our happiness. We depend upon our will for our sense of freedom. We're depending upon something which cannot give us those things. The people who cultivate their will, become strong-willed, control their life, control their existence, gain the means to exercise will, power, wealth, they don't have any freedom. They don't have as much happiness as one who lets go. So why do we depend upon will? Invest so much hope in will? Because we don't see its uncertainty. It's will which makes us move in a certain way, which makes us choose. It's unreliable and uncertain. Sometimes will makes mistakes. Don't feel guilty about the mistakes you make in life. Blame will, that's all. It's will's fault, not mine. It's the doer's fault. It's unreliable. No one is perfect in the world, as the old saying goes. Everyone makes mistakes. You cannot depend upon choice, will, to always be correct. Don't rely upon that. Don't invest so much effort and energy into that. Instead, invest a lot of hope in its opposite, the letting go, detaching, giving up such things. Anicca sees these things rise and fall. Anicca sees these things as being uncertain. Anicca sees that these are undependable, things which promise so much, but which deliver so little, which always tend to let you down. If you cultivate will, it will disappoint you. Seeing this anicca of will makes it easy to let it go. It makes it easy just to sit in meditation and allow things to disappear. Will is what makes you move. Will is what disturbs and agitates the mind. Will is what creates the fear and the excitement. It's the barriers to freedom. It's the barriers to the peace, the letting go, the emptiness of the jhanas. It's a barrier to the complete stopping and ending of the 5 khandhas. So see if you can, by getting rid of the seed, in this case delusion, be one who can say, Avirulhi Chanda. The will is not growing anymore, but the will is wilting. The choice, doing, is disappearing. The doer is dying. The last of the khandhas, again, is consciousness, vijnana. As you to see that, start to see the impermanence of consciousness. See, it's unreliable. We want to be because we think that in being we're going to have some fun, some fulfillment, we're going to get somewhere. What do you want to be for? What's so good about being? There's a deep misunderstanding causing craving that there's something really worthwhile in being. And Buddha said that being is suffering. but still we'd rather be and suffer than not be at all. There's something very fearful about not being. But to see that which is, again, at the heart of this idea of being, knowing, consciousness, mind, to see what that is, to see the 6 types of consciousness which the Buddha taught as a sense basis, depend upon I and forms. I consciousness arises. When those eyes or those forms disappear or they part, I consciousness ceases. It's as simple as that. When there's sounds and the ear, the hearing base, and they come together, then this ear consciousness, sound consciousness arises. And then it disappears again. You may be listening to me or listening to the rain. Feeling consciousness is gone. Now it's sound consciousness. Taste, smell, physical touch, or mind consciousness. When there's mind objects and there's mind, when they come together, there's the arising of mind consciousness. And then mind consciousness disappears. All the consciousnesses, the Buddha said so clearly, because they're dependent upon conditions. When those conditions come and go, so does consciousness come and go. But it's hard to see consciousness gone, because what can see consciousness gone when there's no consciousness to see anything? This is where the inference which comes from the deep meditations will help you. In the jhanas, you've still got the one consciousness left, the mind consciousness, which is the reason why you can know anything at all within those jhanas. But 5 consciousnesses have completely disappeared. The anicca, they've ceased. You realize that you can't depend upon those things, completely uncertain. They come and go. Not someone you can rely upon. And to see just the whole world, karma loka, all this which most people know, this world of the 5 senses, the whole universe, as far as most people are concerned, completely disappears. And that's a pretty neat experience of anicca, of impermanence, things disappearing, going. And again, it's not just the objects on the screen which come and go, it's the whole screen goes. This anicca is much deeper than most people imagine. The whole world, the universe, and even the knower itself, that which knows the universe, that which plays in the universe, the doer. The whole thing going, disappearing, vanishing. See all vijnana just rising and passing away into nothing. In the Satipatthana, the rise and fall is actually seeing the dependent origination and dependent cessation of all these things. Paticca samuppada. That's what rise and fall means. Rising and fall sees all these things are conditioned. The cessation of avijja is the cessation of all sankharas, all will. Cessation of all of the consciousness, all nama rupa, everything just going.